It seems like I'm going to talk about Tanya with a chair today, or with a cat, maybe. Either way, it's going to be interesting. Either of those options.
I had the time off.
You had the time off?
Yeah, I thought we were doing it in a couple of hours because I was bad at remembering time.
You're good.
So,
How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch
How are you?
Hashem. I'm good.
You're good? Are you sure you're good?
I mean, I didn't feel that good today, but I think I'm starting to feel a little better.
You're not Bainani?
I don't know. Probably not.
Halavai Bainani.
Probably not any.
Yeah. Okay.
I was looking at the description of the summary of our discussion from last week. Some juicy stuff.
I don't remember it at all. What did we say?
We talked about Metatron, the angel.
We did talk about Metatron, yes.
We talked about Dechilu, Rechimu, Dechilu. Fear and love and fear.
We did, yes.
We talked about intent.
Yeah.
Sufganiyot.
We did talk about Sufganiyot. William got the Schottenstein interlinear Pirkei Avos as a Hanukkah present for himself.
Nice. I got the Pirkei Avot, something with Pirkei Avot with the Hasidic masters. I also went on a shopping spree on Hey B'Tevet.
Oh yeah, so Kahot has a 40% off sale. I don't know if it's still going, but they did for Hey B'Tevet.
Hey.
Yeah, so there was lots of things on sale on Kahot. Kehot. Yeah, anybody who's interested. I probably should have bought some stuff, but I think
it's still on.
It's still going. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
I know. It's not at the top of the page, so don't worry about
it. the problem is all these books. I buy all these books and I don't read them all.
Well, we go through them here. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah. Once we finish Tanya, we'll talk about all the other books.
Yeah, I bought Torah Studies.
Torah Studies is very good.
I thought it would be nice.
Hold on. Did they reprint Torah Studies of Rabbi Sachs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's been out of print forever.
No, it's on. I think it might be still on sale. It looks beautiful.
They must have just reprinted it.
I think it might be new, yeah, because that's
it's a new printing. It's been out of stock for a very long time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Here I will. Yeah, and it's only $18 down from $30. I will put a link in the chat. Yeah, so it's been out of print for a while. Interesting. Okay, so it's back in print.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Weiter?
You
gonna go or should I go?
I can go for it.
You go.
Beram. צריך להיות... Okay, I need to bring my computer a little closer. Just a second. Okay, let's go. Let's do it again. Let's do another take. ברם, צריך להיות לזיכרון תמיד ראשית העבודה ועיקרה ושורשה. One must, however, I don't know what this however is.
Baram means however.
Yeah, but however.
It's a way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't put too much into it.
So one must constantly bear in mind what is the beginning of divine service, as well as its core and root. והוא כי אף שהיראה היא שורש לסור מרע ואהבה להסב וטוב. This means that although fear is the root of turn away from evil and love is the root of do good, אף על פי כן, לא די לעורר אהבה לבדה לב והסת טוב. Nevertheless, it is not sufficient to awaken love alone by doing good. ולפחות, צריך לעורר תחילה היראה הטבעית המסותרת בלב כל ישראל, שלא למרוד במלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא כנזכר לעיל.
So what he's saying is, if you just have a love of God, that's not going to get you to the level of aseh tov, of to do good. You have to have at least a bit of yirah in order to do good.
Okay, I'm assuming he's going to explain this.
I guess so.
But at the very least, one must first arouse the innate fear which lies hidden in the heart of every Jew, not to rebel against the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, as been stated above. שתהא בהתגלות ליבו, או מוחו על כל פנים, so that this fear should manifest itself in his heart and in his mind.
You want to read the note or
yeah? Optimally, a Jew should be able to create a feeling of fear in his heart through meditating upon God's greatness. If, however, this proves to be beyond his capacity, he should at least arouse the innate fear which lies hidden in his heart. This degree of fear is attainable to all inasmuch as it does not require such profound meditation. Okay, so this innate fear may be aroused either by A, to such that it is actually felt in his heart, or B, if the individual is incapable of evoking palpable fear in his heart, he will at least be able to summon up his innate fear in his mind, so that he will be able to apprehend and experience the fear of God intellectually.
Right.
Okay.
Because
so
as we said, right, the Shvirah was not in the Mochen, was not in Chabad. So at the very least, you can intellectually bring forth a fear of God.
Right, this is the lower fear that we spoke about last time.
Yes.
דיינו, להתבונן במחשבתו על כל פנים גדולת אין סוף ברוך הוא ומלכותו. This means that he should at least contemplate in his mind the greatness of the blessed Ein Sof and his kingship. אשר היא מלכות כל עולמים, עליונים ותחתונים. Which extends to all worlds, both higher and lower. ויהיו ממלא כל עולמין, and he fills all worlds, וסובב כל עולמין, and encompasses all worlds. וכמו שכתוב, הלא את השמיים ואת הארץ אני מלא. As it is written, do I not fill heaven and earth? ומניח העליונים ותחתונים. Yet he leaves aside the creatures of the high worlds and the creatures of the lower worlds. ומייחד מלכותו על עמו ישראל בכלל ועליו בפרט, כי חייב אדם לומר בשבילי נברא העולם. He uniquely bestows his kingship upon his people Israel in general, for God is known as King of Israel, and upon him in particular, for a man is obligated to say, for my sake was the world created.
Yeah.
Right, so meniach, the creatures of the...
So God, in a sense, leaves aside everything else in the world, right? And is God over Israel? Yes, but you individually, God, has all the worlds and all the things and everything, right? That He has created and da 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 da. But He is king over you individually.
Right, בפרט ובכלל. אוקיי. והוא, גם הוא מקבל עליו מלכותו, להיות מלך עליו, ולעבדו ולעשות רצונו בכל מיני עבודת עבד. And he, for his part, accepts his kingship upon himself, that he be king over him, to serve him and to do his will in all kinds of servile work. והנה השם ניצב עליו, ומלא כל הארץ כבודו, ומביט עליו. Quote, and behold, God himself stands over him, and the whole world is full with his glory. He scrutinizes him in particular. ובוחן כליות ולב עם עובדו כראוי, and searches his reins and heart to see if he is serving him as is fitting. ועל כן צריך לעבוד לפניו באימה וביראה, כעומד לפני המלך. Therefore, he must serve in his presence with awe and fear. Notes the Rebbe not merely like one who is located in the king's domain, but moreover like one standing before the king.
Yep.
It's
not enough to think, President Biden rules this country. Mm-hmm. It has to be you're standing there in front of President Biden.
Right. It's like standing at it's a very dark night. There's nobody around. You're in your car in a red light. And something compels you not to go, even though it's absolutely clear. Like there's nothing.
Yeah. Correct.
ויעמיק במחשבה זו, ויעריך בה כפי יכולת השגת מוחו ומחשבתו, וכפי הפנאי שלו. One must meditate profoundly and at length on this concept, according to the capacity of apprehension of his brain and thought and the time available. לפני עסק התורה או המצווה, כמו כן, כמו לפני לבישת טלית ותפילין, before he engages in the study of Torah or before the performance of a commandment, such as before putting on his talit or tefillin. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's interesting to consider how the Alter Rabbi with English.
Alter Rabbi is good.
Yeah. All my different accents get mixed together, like the Israeli, now the Hasidic that I need some words.
Wait until you start speaking Yiddish.
Well, that's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah, well, once you learn Yiddish, and then you're going to have to learn Galicianer Yiddish.
Galicianer?
Yeah, Barcheni, like, so I went to a real Hasidic synagogue, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying Chazarat Hashatz. And I'm wondering, why is we always say all of the brachot, right, in the Amidah, in the plural, right? Barchenu, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's saying Barcheni, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because the Galicianers, they say a shuruk, shirik.
Shirik.
So whenever you have u in Hebrew, right? Like barchenu, they say barcheni.
That's very confusing.
And wherever there's a kamatz, they say an u. So it becomes burcheni.
Mm-hmm. What's Galiciani? Is that like something with Italy?
It's a part of it's like Hungary. That area, okay. And yeah, there he like all it when you have you ever been to a to a Yemenite synagogue?
I have Yemenite friends, but I've never been to a synagogue. No.
So they say a segol as an ah. Right.
I've listened to people. Yeah. Like with the
and a gimel without a dagesh. They use they say boreh free hajafan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like makes it a whole complete like the language. It's like
when you pay attention to all the different liturgical languages, it'll do a whole thing on you. That's why I tend to stick Rahman al-Islam with that abomination that is Israeli modern Hebrew pronunciation. God have mercy on our soul.
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
It's closer to Sephardic, I would assume. No,
like in some ways. Which Sephardic? So they. Right. So Ben Yehuda.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like Mizrach or. Yeah.
He took all the mistakes of all the various languages and put them together. He made Hebrew as simple as he could by all the mistakes that the Sephardim make, putting them together with all the mistakes that the Ashkenazim make, and there you have modern Hebrew.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. וגם מתבונן איך שאור אין סוף ברוך הוא, הסובב כל עלמין וממלא כל עלמין, הוא רצון העליון. So a person should also reflect how the light of the blessed Ein Sof which encompasses all worlds and pervades all worlds, and which is identical with the higher will. הוא מלובש באותיות וחוכמת התורה. Is clothed in the letters and wisdom of the Torah. Or betzitzit utfilin elu. Or if his meditations take place before he puts on his talit and tefillin, he should contemplate how the divine will is clothed in these tzitzit and tefillin, being God's will that a Jew would wear them. ובקריאתו ובלבישתו, and through his recitation or by his wearing tzitzit and tefillin, הוא ממשיך אורו יתברך עליו, דהיינו על חלק אלוהה ממעל, שבתוך גופו. He draws upon himself his blessed light that is over the part of God above his soul, which abides in his body and animates it. להיכלל ולבטל באורו יתברך. This he does with the intent that it may be absorbed and nullified in his blessed light. ודרך פרט בתפילין, להיבטל ולהיכלל בחינת חוכמתו ובינתו שבנפשו האלוהית, בבחינת חוכמתו ובינתו של אין סוף ברוך הוא, המלובשות דרך פרט בפרשיות קדש והיה כי יבייך.
So there are 4 parshiot in the Tefillin, and this is 2 of them.
Right. So he's saying that this intent or the will is clothed specifically in these parshiot, which are in the Tefillin.
Yep.
Okay. דיינו שלא להשתמש בחוכמתו ובינתו שבנפשו, בלתי להשם לבדו. That is to say that he should use the wisdom and understanding that are in his soul for God alone. He should. דיינו שלא. Is he using Aleph as Vav?
No. שלא להשתמש בחוכמתו ובינתו שבנפשו, בלתי להשם לבדו.
What's
that he should only use it for God.
Okay.
Yeah.
וכן להיבטל ולהיכלל בחינת הדעת שבנפשו, הכולל חסד וגבורה, שאין יראה ואהבה שבליבו. Similarly, he should intend that the attribute of da'at in his soul, which includes both chesed, kindness, and gvura, severity, i.e. fear and love in his heart. מבחינת הדעת שבנפשו, אוקיי. בבחינת דעת העליון הכולל חסד וגבורה, המלובש בפרשיות שמע, והיה הם שמו. שמוע. שמוע. Be nullified and absorbed into the attribute of the higher knowledge, דעת עליון, which comprises kindness and severity, and which is clothed in the passage of Shema and והיה הם שמו.
Right. So there are 4 parshiot in the Tefillin.
Yeah.
Right. And the first 2, well, they're not the first 2, but two of them specifically Chokhmah and Binah, and two of them refer to Da'at Elyon, apparently. I did not know any of this.
Mm-hmm. Which comprises of the fear and love, or the higher fear and love. Or, well, yeah.
Well, all of them have to. So Da'at is the connection between the emotional attributes and the mental faculties, right? So in Da'at, you bring everything together.
Right. אוקיי. והיינו, כמו שכתוב בשולחן ערוך, לשעבד הלב והמוח. This accords with the statement of the Shulchan Aruch that while you put on tefillin, one should intend to make one's heart and brain subservient to God.
Right. And that's part of the reason why tefillin is so important, because it is kibul ol. It is accepting, okay, God is ruling over me.
ובעטיפת ציצית, יכווין כמו שכתוב בזוהר, להמשיך עליו מלכותו יתברך. And while putting on the tzitzit, one should bear in mind what is written in the Zohar, namely, that he should draw upon himself his blessed kingdom. אשר היא מלכות כל עולמים וכולי, לאחדה עלינו על ידי מצווה זו. Which is the kingdom of all worlds. To focus on God's kingdom specifically over ourselves through this mitzvah. והוא כעניין שום תשים עליך מלך. This is similar to the commandment, you shall surely set a king over yourself. ואזי, אף אם בכל זאת לא תיפול עליו אימה ופחד בהתגלות ליבו, in such a case, then even though after all of this meditation, no dread or fear descends upon him in a manifest manner in his heart, the person that meditates on this, מכל מקום, מאחר שמקבל עליו מלכות שמיים, הוא ממשיך עליו יראתו יתברך בהתגלות מחשבתו ורצונו שבמוחו. Nevertheless, since he accepts the kingdom of heaven upon himself and draws upon himself the fear of him in his conscious thought and rational volition, בקבלה זו היא אמיתית בלי שום ספק, שהרי היא טבע נפשות שלא למרוד במלך הקדוש יתברך. This submission to God and his fear of him is beyond doubt a sincere one, for it is the treasure or nature of all Jewish souls not to rebel against the blessed Holy King. הרי התורה שלומד, או המצווה שעושה מחמת קבלה זו, או מחמת המשכת היראה שבמוחו, נקראות בשם עבודה שלמה. The Torah he studies, or the commandment he performs, because of his submission and because of the fear that he has drawn into his mind, are termed complete service. ככל עבודת העבד לאדונו ומלכו, like all service performed by a servant for his master or king. So he's saying that even though you don't feel the fear in your body,
even if you don't feel it actually,
right,
since you accepted it upon yourself,
right,
it still has a capacity to elevate it, because ultimately this is something that is naturally part of you,
right,
and you're actually doing it. I mean, even if it doesn't rise to the greatest and highest level.
מה שאין כן, אם לומד ומקיים המצווה באהבה לבדה, כדי לדבקה בו על ידי תורתו ומצוותיו, אינה נקראת בשם עבודת העבד. On the other hand, if one studies Torah and performs a commandment with love alone, in order to cleave to him through the study of his Torah and the performance of his commandments, then this is not termed a service of a servant. Service of the servant.
So if it's only because of your love of God, and it doesn't include any form of fear and awe of God's kingship, right? Then it's not complete. It's missing something.
Right. והתורה אמרה, ועבדתם את השם אלוהיכם, ואותו תעבודו. Whereas the Torah has declared, you shall serve the Lord your God. Him shall you serve. וכמו שכתוב בזוהר, פרשת בהר, is explained in the Zohar, Kahai, I guess that's why I didn't want to read it.
Kahai Torah, the Yahaven Ale, that they give to it, all bekadmeta, begin la'afaka minei tav la'alma, chulu, hachenami itzrich levad nash, lekabla ale all malchut shamayim bekadmeta, chulu, vehi hai la ishtacha gabe, la sharya be kedusha chulu. Did that help?
And it will soon help. As explained in the Zohar, just like the ox.
Torah is Tor is ox in
Torah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Tool. Okay. Just like the ox on which one first places a yoke in order to make it useful to the world, so too must a human being first of all submit to the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, and only then engage in divine service. And if this submission is not found in him, holiness cannot rest within him.
Yeah.
I feel like there is something here that I don't have a question, but I feel like there's more. This is good. This is deep.
It is deep. It's the Zohar. That's why we don't understand it.
וברעיה מאמנה, שם דף קי"א עמוד ב', שכל אדם צריך להיות בשתי בחינות ומדרגות, והן בחינת עבד ובחינת בן. So at least one of those can proclaim for myself.
Yep.
And in Raya Mehemna, it is written that every man must in his divine service belong to two categories and levels. Namely, the category of a servant who serves his master out of fear, and the category of a son who serves his father out of love. ואף דיש בן שהוא גם כן עבד. הרי אי אפשר לבוא למדרגה זו בלי קדימת היראה הילאה כידוע ליודעים. And although one may find a son who is also a servant, it is impossible to attain to this degree without the prerequisite of the higher level of fear and awe known as ir'a ila'ah, as is known to the initiated.
Yep.
Initiated, yeah.
Yeah. Good thing we're not initiated, so we don't know this.
והנה, אף מי שגם במוחו ובמחשבתו אינו מרגיש שום יראה ובושה. Furthermore, even in the case of an individual who even in his mind and thought feels no fear or shame, מפני פחיתות ערך נפשו ממקור חוצבה, ממדרגות תחתונות, די-10 ספירות דעשייה. So on account, doesn't feel shame on account or shame or fear on account of the limited grade of his soul originating in the lower degrees of the 10 sefirot of Asiyah.
Yeah, since his soul is not from any of the loftier places, right?
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't have the fielded yira and busha that he should.
Well, doesn't it say that he doesn't, even though his soul?
He's saying that a person who doesn't feel fear and shame at the level he should. It's because his soul, makor chutzpah, where his soul comes from, is from a lower place in the Eser Sfirot V'Asiyah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the imagery, the makor chutzpah, like where you
dug up from. Yeah.
Like in a quarry. Yeah, that's the image. אף על פי כן, מאחר שמתכוון בעבודתו כדי לעבוד את המלך, הרי זו עבודה גמורה. Nevertheless, since he is intent in his service to serve the king, this is unequivocally a complete service. It's interesting that they put in unequivocally.
Right.
כי היראה והעבודה נחשבות לשתי מצוות במניין תרי"ג, ואינן מעכבות זו את זו. For fear and service are accounted as two commandments of the total of 613, and they do not exclude each other.
Right. Not having one doesn't exclude the other.
Right. ועוד שבאמת מקיים גם מצוות יראה במה שממשיך היראה במחשבתו. Furthermore, as a matter of fact, he not only fulfills the obligation of service, he also fulfills the commandment of fearing God by introducing the fear into his thought, thinking about it and seeking to arouse it. כי בשעה ורגע זו על כל פנים, מורה שמיים עליו על כל פנים, כמורה בשר ודם הדיוט לפחות, שאינו מלך המביט עליו. For at this hour and moment, at any rate, there rests upon him the fear of heaven, at least like one's fear in the presence of an ordinary mortal, even not the king who is watching him.
Right? Just so if somebody's around, you already have a certain bit of you have a little bit of busha, right? If anybody's around, even if it's not a king, right?
Right, שנמנע בעבורו מלעשות דבר שאינו הגון בעיניו. When you would refrain from doing anything unseemly in the other's eyes, even if they are not a king.
Right.
Even if they're just a lowly prime minister.
No, just anybody, right? You somebody else is there, you're still gonna act a little bit nicer.
שזו נקראת יראה, כמו שאמר רבן יוחנן בן זכאי לתלמידיו, יהי רצון שיהיה מורא שמיים עליכם כמורא בשר ודם. This is termed fear, as Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to his disciple, may it be God's will that the fear of heaven be upon you like the fear of a human being. Whereupon there's a note here, whereupon his disciples protested, and no more than this. Okay. תדעו כשאדם עובר עבירה אומר שלא יראני אדם וכולי. For you know that when a person commits a sin, he says to himself, may no one see me. Okay. Interesting. This kind of reminds me, even it probably shouldn't remind me of Moshe and the Egyptian. That he looks
this way and that. Well, I mean, why exactly he looked this way and that? The Pashut Pshat is that he couldn't have done what he did if there were witnesses.
Right. רק שיראה זו נקראת יראה תתאה, ויראת חטא שקודמת לחוכמתו. Such fear, however, is termed יראת תתאה, lower level fear, and יראת חטא, fear of sin, which precedes wisdom. So it's a fear of transgressing.
Yeah.
Sorry. ויראה הילאה הוא יראת בושת. While the higher is a shame-faced fear. The state of being abashed and overawed in God's presence. Not wanting to disappoint him that we talked about it before. The eight ira ve'eit ira chulei.
Yeah, eat is Aramaic for yesh.
The eight ira ve'eit ira. So there are two kinds of fear.
Yeah.
אבל בלי יראה כלל, לא פרחה לילה, באהבה לבדה, כמו שהעוף אינו יכול לפרוח בכנף אחד. Without any fear at all, however, i.e. one's fulfillment of the Torah and mitzvot, the soul or the person does not soar on high to the soul, to the supernal sefirot through love alone, just as a bird cannot fly with one wing. Yeah, this is what we talked about in terms of the fear and love being wings. Okay, this is what I say. דחילו וריחים ואין טרין גדפין, כמו שכתוב בתיקונים. For fear and love are the two wings as stated in תיקוני זוהר. You might continue because I'm having a bit of trouble.
Sure. וכן היראה לבדה היא כנף אחד ולא פרחה בה לעילה אף שנקראת עבודת עבד. Right? And similarly, if you only have a fear of God, right, it's not able to fly above, even though that is considered the service of a servant. וצריך להיות גם כן בחינת בן. You should also have this aspect of being a son, לעורר האהבה הטבעית על כל פנים, המסותרת בליבו, שתהא בהתגלות מוחו על כל פנים. So at the very least, you should bring this idea up in your mind that comes from that natural love of God that is naturally within every Jew. לזכור אהבתו להשם אחד במחשבתו ורצונו לדבקו בו יתברך. Right? To remember the love of God, the one God, in his thoughts and will to cling to him. וזאת תהיה כוונתו בעסק התורה או המצווה זו. Right? And that should be his intention when he's doing the mitzvah or learning Torah. לדבקו בו נפשו האלוקית והחיונית לבושיהם כנזכר לעיל. Right? So to make his living, his divine soul and the animal soul, right, the vivifying soul, right, they should together with their garments shall cleave to him, as has been explained above. However, Amru Rabbeinu Zichronam L'Racha, the sages taught Olam al yotzi adam atzmo min haklal, that a person should never take himself out of the general of what everything else, everybody else. לכן יתכוון לייחד לדבקו בו יתברך מקור נפשו האלוקית ומקור נפשות כל ישראל. When he does that, he should do it with an intention that he should bring along the entirety of Israel with him. Shehu ruach piv yitbarach hanikra b'shem shchina al shem sheshochenet umitlabeshet toch kol almin lachayotan ulakayma. So here we're talking about that particular part of godliness, which is shared among all of Israel, the Yechidah, right? Which is Chelek Alakam Mimal Mamish, right? He should have the entirety of it in mind. He המשפעת בו כוח הדיבור הזה שמדבר בדברי תורה, או כוח המעשה הזה לעשות מצווה זו, and that's the ultimate source which gives him any capacity to do a mitzvah or to speak words of Torah. וייחוד זה הוא על ידי המשכת אור אין סוף ברוך הוא למטה, על ידי עסק התורה והמצוות שהוא מלובש בהן. This union is attained through drawing forth the light of the blessed Ein Sof here below by being occupied in the Torah and the commandments wherein it is clothed. והתכוון להמשיך אורו יתברך על מקור נפשו ונפשות כל ישראל ליחדן. He should have this intent to bring the light down upon himself and all of Israel, to bring them together. כמו שיתבהר לכמה פירוש ייחוד זה באריכות עין שם. Like we'll explain later. Yeah.
I lost my glasses. Okay. Does he explain, I mean, what does it mean, the intent of bringing it down in order to, is the wording like unite, or that it should unite the whole of
so
Israel, is the klal?
One more line. וזהו פירוש לשם ייחוד קודשה בריחו שכינתה בשם כל ישראל. Right? So Sephardim actually say L'Shem Yichud before every mitzvah. Chabad only says L'Shem Yichud once before Baruch Shamar in the morning.
Okay.
And many people, some Hasidim say it before other things, right? So he's explaining L'Shem Yichud Kudsha B'Richu Shchinteh B'Shem Kol Israel, right? Okay. The kavanah that the Arizal and his students taught everyone should have when they are doing mitzvot is to unite God and his Shekhinah, the entirety of Israel together.
Okay. Right. So there is an intent, and then in the service, you also mentioned that, so that it's also captured in that way. And then obviously in the mitzvot, it's something that should come through with that as well.
Right. So he's saying, look, you in order to have a complete understanding of why we do a mitzvah, right? A person should have ahavat Hashem, obviously. He should have a love of God. But he also needs to have a fear of God. And he needs to remember that he is part of a greater whole, all of Israel.
Right. Is that why there is a put V'ahavta l'recha kamocha in the beginning, somewhere in the morning? You say V'ahavta l'recha kamocha.
Hareini mekabel alai mitzvat V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Right. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things you do in prayer is you accept upon yourself the mitzvah of loving your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Weiter?
Yes. Thank you for reading. My stomach hurts a little bit, so it's hard to.
I'm sorry your stomach hurts. You should have a refuah shlema. El na rafana lo. El na rafana lo.
Thank you.
וגם על ידי זה יתמתקו גם כן הגבורות בחסדים ממילא בהתקללות המידות בייחודם. And through this, the gevurot are sweetened, whatever that means, with the chasadim, by bringing these two things together. על ידי גילוי רצון העליון ברוך הוא המתגלה למעלה בהתערותא דלתתא. Right? By awakening God, a revelation of God's supernal will through awakening from below. Hu gilui lamata be'esek haTorah v'hamitzvah shehen retzono yitbarach. Namely, it's revelation here below in one's occupation in the Torah and commandments, for they are His blessed will. Right? when you do that which God wishes, right, you are representing God in the world because it is His will that you do that which you are doing. וכמו שכתוב בעדרה רבה ומשנת חסדים, מסכת אריך אנפין, פרק ד', and like is in a bunch of books I've never seen before, שתרי"ג מצוות התורה נמשכות מחיוורתא דאריך אנפין, that they come from the clarity, the whiteness of Arich Anpin. What that is, you can ask your local Orthodox Kabbalist. Shehu Ratzon Ha'elyon Mekor HaChasadim. Right? That is the supernal will, the source of all the Chasadim. Va'av Sheliyot Kavanazu Amitit Belibo שיהיה ליבו חפץ באמת ייחוד העליון הזה, צריך להיות בליבו אהבה רבה להשם לבדו. Right? Although in order that this intent should be sincere in his heart, so that his heart should truly desire this higher union, his heart must harbor a great love of God alone and nothing else. לעשות נחת רוח לפניו לבד, ולא לרבות נפשו הצמאה להשם, right? To do what is gratifying to him alone and not for the purpose of quenching his own soul's thirst for God. אלא כברא דשתדל בתר אבוי ואימי, דרכים לא יתיר מגרמי ונפשי, חולו, כמו שנתברר לעיל בשם ראיה בהמנה. But he must be like a son who strives for the sake of his father and mother, whom he loves more than his own body and soul.
So there's another metaphor that I like here, and I think I heard this from Rabbi Gordon, that he says that this is like the husband that, you want to, your wife like really likes flowers, but you're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy flowers. It's going to cost like $30. I'm going to put them in. They're going to die in 2 days. What's the point? Can't I? So you want to go to your wife and tell her, can't we just, buy a drill or something? I can build something. We can make more stuff. It'll be more effective. But you buy the flowers because this is what you want.
That's what she wants, not what you want. Yeah, Rabbi Mullet recently in one of his videos, he was like, sometimes you're like, I'll take my wife out to a nice steak dinner because steak, but she doesn't like steak. I like steak. Mm-hmm. You don't take your wife out to a nice steak dinner if you're taking her out for Yeah. Mikolma, yesh l'chol adam lahargil atzmo b'chavana zu. Nevertheless, you should try, right, to have this intent. Ki af she'ena ba'emet la'amito lagamre belibo she'achpotz bazek b'chol libo, even though it's not perfect. Mikol makom ma'at mizer chafetz libo bazeh be'emet, a little bit really does want. מפני האהבה הטבעית שבלב כל ישראל לעשות כל מה שהוא רצון העליון ברוך הוא. Because there is a naturally inborn love in every Jewish heart to do what God wants. וייחוד זה הוא רצונו האמיתי. And this union is his true desire. והיינו ייחוד העליון שבאצילות הנעשה בהתערותא ולתתא, על ידי ייחוד נפש האלוקית והתקללותה באור השם המלובש בתורה ומצוות שעוסקת בהם, right? Namely the supernal union in the world of Atzilut, which is produced by an arousal from below through the divine soul's union and absorption in God's light that is clothed in the Torah and the commandments in which it is engaged. V'hayu la'achadim mamish, they will truly be as one. Like was explained before. כי על ידי זה מתייחדים גם כן מקור התורה והמצוות, שהוא הקדוש ברוך הוא עם מקור נפשו האלוקית הנקרא בשם שכינה. Right? So that's the לשם ייחוד קודשה בריחו שכינתה. Right? שהה בחינת ממלא כל העלמין ובחינת סובב על כל העלמין. Right? So that's filling the worlds and encompassing the worlds, כמו שנתבהר במקום אחר באריכות, as explained elsewhere at length. אבל ייחוד נפשו והתגלותה באור השם להיות לאחדים, בזה חפץ כל אדם מישראל באמת לאמיתו, לגמרי, בכל לב ובכל נפש. Right? The union is something that is the actual truth, and it is in everyone's soul. מאהבה הטבעית המסותרת בלב כל ישראל ללב כל בהשם, right? From a natural hidden love that exists in every Jew. ולא להיפרד ולהיות נקראת ונבדל חס ושלום מייחוד ואחדותו יתברך בשום אופן, אפילו במסירת נפש ממש, right? That a person doesn't want to be separated from God's unity and oneness, even if it should cost his life. The עסק התורה והמצוות והתפילה הוא גם כן עניין מסירת נפש ממש, right? And to do a mitzvah or to learn Torah or to pray, it is in essence mesirut nefesh, a giving up of one's soul. כמו שצאתה מן הגוף במלאת 70 שנה. Because at the end, right, you're spending your life force, right, after 70 years, which is the normal thing, right, people die, right, in a very similar sense, you're spending that time that you have to live in doing that Torah mitzvah.
Yeah.
She'eina meharheret betzorchei haguf, because you're not thinking about your own body. Eila machshavatah meyuchedet umelobeshet beotiot haTorah v'atefila. Shehen davar Hashem umachshavato yitbarach v'hayu lachadim mamish. Right, because he's thinking about godliness and the will of God. Right, that they are truly become one. Shezehu kol esek haneshamot began Eden kedeita begamara v'zahar. Right, and so it's like he is, his soul is in the Garden of Eden as
hanging
is
out.
In the Garden. What?
Hanging out up there with all the sages studying.
Yep. Ela shesham mitangin b'hasagat v'hitkalut hasagatam v'hitkalutam ba'or Hashem. Right there, it's something that is seen and felt. V'zehu shetiknu בתחילת ברכות השחר קודם התפילה אלוקי נשמה חולו ואתה נפחת חולו ואתה עתיד לתלה ממני חולו. Right? And that's why we have this prayer Elokai Neshama, right? You breathe that into me and you will eventually take it from me. Kloma, that is to say, Ma'achar she'ata nefachta bi ve'ata atid litla bimeni, right? Since you breathed it into me and you will take it from me in the future, לכן מעתה אני מוסרה ומחזירה לך ליחדה באחדותך, right? Therefore, I am going to, in a sense, give it back to you, right? In that I will be that which you want me to be. וכמו שכתוב, אליך השם נפשי אשא, right? Like it says in Tehillim, I believe. Yeah, Psalm 25:1, right? I will lift my soul to you. V'hain al yedei hitkashrut machshavti b'machshavatcha, v'diburi b'diburcha, v'otiot haTorah v'atefila, right? By bringing my mind and my speech together with the words of Torah and Tefillah, which are from God. ובפרט באמירת להשם לנוכח כמו ברוך אתה ukahai gavna, when you speak to God in the second person, nocheach, right? You say, blessed are you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are in essence bringing, so this is where Martin Buber got all of his I thou stuff, right?
Right.
He stole it all from Hasidic philosophy and
repackaged.
Yeah. והנה בהכנה זו של מסירת נפשו להשם, through this preparation of surrendering your soul to God, יתחיל ברכות השחר ברוך אתה, right? You start by bringing your soul up to God by saying, blessed are you, right? וכן בהכנה זו יתחיל ללמוד שיעור kavua miyad achar hatefillah. Similarly, you should always make a time to sit and regularly study after the tefillah, even if it's a little bit. וכן באמצע היום, קודם שיתחיל ללמוד, צריכה הכנה זו לפחות. Similarly, when he's learning later in the day, you should have this idea, כנודע שעיקר ההכנה לשמה לעכב, who betchilat halimud ba'beinonim, as is known that in the case of beinonim, the essential preparation and intent for its own sake, where it is indispensable, is before the beginning of study. I didn't know that, but okay.
What are we talking about here?
He's saying that I don't know why, but for a beinoni, the ikar ha'chana lishma, that is la'akev, meaning that is absolutely necessary, is that who b'tchilat halimud, he should at least, at this moment that he's sitting to learn, right, at the very beginning, he should at least have this idea of, I'm doing this because of God, for God's sake, even if it's not something that you can maintain throughout your libud. Right? So when a person is writing a get or a Sefer Torah, he has to, at all the entire time, he has to be thinking that, well, I'm writing this for this particular reason. And it's enough that when he starts to write, he says, Hareini kotev l'shem yikushat sefer Torah, or lishmo v'lishma, or for him and for her in the case of a get, right?
Interesting. I think I don't really do the Rambam study cycle, but I think it's just going through, or it was just recently went through the laws of divorce and how what makes a get valid, and like even if it's the same name of the couple, but it was like there's two couples, you have the same names, but it was not intended for that specific couple, then it's invalid. Really need, like, the intent needs to be there.
וכשלומד שעות הרבה רצופות, יש לו להתבונן בהכנה זו הנזכרת לעיל, בכל שעה ושעה על כל פנים. If he's going to learn for many hours, he should at least once every hour on an hourly interval remind himself of this. כי בכל שעה ושעה היא המשכה אחרת מעולמות עליונים לחיות התחתונים. That's so interesting. I was just listening to Rabbi Breitowitz talking about how every hour of the day has its own flow, and so he's saying for every hour you should at least remind yourself. והמשכת החיות שבשעה שלפניה חוזרת למקורה. So the one from the previous hour goes, not that I understand these things, but
Yeah.
Besod ratzo v'shov shebesefer Yetzirah, as is explained, the coming and going in Sefer Yetzirah. Another thing I've never learned. Im kol haTorah umasim tovim shel hatachtonim. Together with the Torah and good deeds that dwell below. Ki b'chol sha'ah sholet tzeruf echad miyod bet tzerufei Shem Havaya Baruch Hu b'yod bet sha'ot hayom v'tzerufei Shem Adnut b'layla kanoda. Right? So 4 factorial is 12, and there's 4 letters in the Tetragrammaton, and there's 4 letters in Shem Adnut, and so there's 12 combinations of these 4 letters during the day and 12 combinations during the night, as is known. Did you know that?
No.
Well, good, because if you did know that, I would be wondering if you're on too high of a level for me to study with. V'hinei kol kavanato b'misirat nafsho la'Hashem al yedei haTorah v'atefillah lahalot nitzotz elokut shebetocha limkora. And the whole purpose is to elevate that spark of godliness back to its source. Teheh rak kedei la'asot nachat ruach lanafanav yitbarach kemshal simchat hamelech bavo alav beno yechido betzeito min hashivya ubeit ha'asurim kenizkar la'ayel. Right, that he should. That the whole point is to cause happiness above, the same way as a king who sees that his son has returned from captivity or imprisonment is filled with joy, as explained above. V'hinei kavana zo hi amitzit be'emet la'amito lagamre b'chol nefesh me'Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol sha'ah. Right? Truly, this is something that is in every Jewish soul at all times. Ma'ahava hativit hi Yerusha lanu ma'avotenu. Right? This is something that we have inherited from our ancestors. Rak shetzarich likboa itin leitponen begdulat Hashem lasig dichilur chimu sichliim. Right? He merely needs to spend some time to meditate upon the greatness of God in order to awaken it. V'chulei hai v'ulai v'chulu kanizkar la'ayel. And with all that, perhaps one may succeed in attaining such fear and love as has been stated previously.
Do we know how we inherit this natural love and fear from our ancestors?
Well, I mean, it's not something that you can create of yourself. So the question becomes why we start the Amidah, Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, right? The God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Jacob, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it means to be a member of Israel, right? It's not something that you yourself were able to make happen. It's a gift. It's a gift that you have inherited. It's something that comes from the fact that God decided that you should be born into a Jewish body, right? And so that aspect of it is not something that is
a choice
by choice or something we have gotten. It's so I'll tell you my favorite story again, which I'm sure you've heard a bunch of times, right? So this young man hears that there's some great tree, right? that has a great fruit that is unlike anything he's ever tasted before. And he decides he's going to go find this fruit. And he goes searching for it. He goes and speaks to wise men. He goes to port cities, and he goes to hermits, and he goes climbs mountains and climbs and crosses deserts and rivers and seas. And as an old man, he finally arrives at this tree, and there's a fruit on the tree, and he takes the fruit and he tastes of it, and he tastes geschmack. And all those years of searching were worth it, right? And while he's feeling this geschmack, he's enjoying this, a little kid walks up to the tree and picks up fruit and starts eating it. And he says to the kid, it took me my entire life to find this place. How'd you get here so young? And the kid says, what does this kid say?
Geschmack.
The kid says,
no, not really.
I was born here. Right? There are certain people who, and that's what it means when we say, Ata bachartanu mikol ha'amim. You have chosen us from all the nations. Right?
Yeah.
God has given us the Torah, has given us this capacity, this Yerusha, which is not of our own choosing. It's not of our own making. It's something that he just gave to us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't necessarily understand what a great gift it is.
Yeah. In some sense, and obviously I say it very, very, very humbly because I'm not that kid, but in some sense, I empathize with that kid because the fact that I know Hebrew. And I meet people, like I talk to I know somebody that also kind of wants to learn stuff, but he doesn't know Hebrew. He's American. He's Jewish but American, so he doesn't know Hebrew. Much harder for him to look at those things. And in the past, I didn't even think about that. I didn't really think about what is the meaning of me understanding this language.
Yeah. It was a gift God gave you. And it makes it easy for you to read things fast and learn things. And soon you'll be a great rabbi. Weiter?
I can do a little bit.
Okay.
I'll let you know if.
Let me know when you get tired.
Okay. You know what?
What?
Let's do this. Let's go.
You're gonna stand?
I'm gonna stand a little bit.
You love God, I can tell.
It's a cheap standing desk, so it takes a little bit of time.
I have a standing desk here too. I've barely used it since I bought it.
I haven't seen you posting practices too much. What's going on?
Yeah, I haven't been. I haven't been exercising. Yeah, life's.
Okay. So, והנה, במה שנתבהר לעיל, באין יראת התאה.
בעניין יראת התאה.
לעיל, בעניין יראת התאה. In the light of what has already been said on the subject of the lower level of fear, יובן היטב מה שכתוב בגמרא על פסוק, ואתה ישראל מה השם אלוהיך שואל מעמך, כי אם ליראה את השם אלוהיך. התו יראה מילתא זוטרתי היא. So what does this mean? One will clearly understand the Talmudic comment on the verse, and now Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? only that you fear the Lord your God. The Gemara asks, is fear then such a small thing? Right, this is Moses saying this. I remember us talking about it. En legabe Moshe milta zutrati hi zutarti hi v'chulei. And says the Gemara, yes, in the case of Moses, it is a small thing, and so forth. דלכאורה, אינו מובן התירוץ, שואל מימך כתיב. At first glance, the answer of the Gemara is incomprehensible. For the verse asks, what does he require of you? I.e., what does God require of every Jew, not just Moses? Okay. אלא העניין הוא, כי כל נפש ונפש מבית ישראל, יש בה מבחינת משה רבנו עליו השלום, כי הוא משבעה רועים. The explanation, however, is as follows. Each and every soul of the house of Israel comprises within it something of the quality of our teacher Moses, peace unto him, for he is one of the 7 shepherds. Where's this from? Zohar.
The 7 shepherds is Sukkah 52b. So yeah, the 7 shepherds are Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. Right, the 7 lower sphirot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. הממשיכים חיות ואלוהות לכללות נשמות ישראל, שלכן נקראים בשם רואים. Who cause vitality and godliness to flow to the community of the souls of Israel, for which reason they are called shepherds. ומשה רבנו עליו השלום הוא כללות כולם, ונקרא ראיה מהמנה, דהיינו שממשיך בחינת הדעת לכללות ישראל לידע את השם. Our teacher Moses, peace unto him, comprises aspects of them all, and he is called the faithful shepherd. This means that he draws down the quality of Da'at to the community of Israel, that they may know and be cognizant of God, so that for them godliness will be self-evident and experienced by every Jew. כל אחד כפי השגת נשמתו ושורשה למעלה. Each according to his intellectual capacity of his soul and its root above. ויניקתה משורש נשמת משה רבנו עליו השלום המושרשת בדעת העליון, שביוד ספירות דאצילות, המיוחדות במאצילן ברוך הוא. And according to the degree of its nurture from the root of the soul of our teacher Moses, peace unto him, which is rooted in the Da'at Elyon, supernal knowledge, of the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut, which are united with their emanator. So, is Moses connected with Da'at specifically?
Well, Moses is called Raya Mehemna. It's called the faithful shepherd. So, I mean, the fact is that it was through Moses that the Torah was given, right? So that's in a sense, it is through Moses that the dot of God, the knowledge of God through the Torah is given.
Okay.
But he's specifically affiliated with the Sphira of Netzach.
Okay. I can ask you a bunch of questions about that, but I don't know if we want to go there yet now.
I don't know if I have answers.
Okay. Yeah, let's leave it be. שהוא ודעתו אחד, והוא המדע וכולי. For he and his knowledge are one, and he is the knowledge. ועוד זאת, יתר על כן, בכל דור ודור יורדין ניצוצין מנשמת משה רבנו עליו השלום, ומתלבשים בגוף ונפש של חכמי הדור עיני העדה. In addition and beyond this, their descent in every generation spark from the soul of our teacher Moses, peace unto him, and they clothe themselves in the body and soul of the sages of that generation, the eyes of the congregation, the pillars. How do we say that? The tzaddik.
Tzaddik Yesod Olam?
Tzaddik Yesod Olam.
Well, this is it pashtuta the Moshe Rabbeinu. It's specifically the teachers and the Rabbanan, right? It's slightly different than the tzaddikim, because you can have tzaddikim nistarim, right? When we're talking about tzaddik Yesod Olam, you could be talking about tzaddikim nistarim, but specifically when we're talking about the Chachmei Hador, it says it's slightly different. But Kohen sheyeh bayom hahu, right? It says you should go to the sage, to the priest who is in your day, right? And the Gemara asks, could you go to somebody who's not in your day, right? And it answers, because people will think, the leaders we have today are not as great as the earlier ones, which is a silly thing to say, because of course they're not like the earlier ones. But in each generation, there's an itpashtuta, the Moshe Rabbeinu, there is a resonance of Moses, even if it be somebody as lowly as Japheth, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Japheth, you don't mean the OG Japheth, though.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, but he was before.
But he's given as an example of Kal Shabakalim. He was considered one of the least, because he obviously was not a very great person. But still, he was. that was his job during that time. Yeah.
Okay. ללמד דעת את העם ולידע גדולת השם ולעבדו בלב ונפש. To impart knowledge to the people, that they may know the greatness of God and hence serve him with heart and soul. כי העבודה שבלב היא לפי הדעת, כמו שכתוב, דע את אלוהי אביך ועבדהו בלב שלם ונפש חפיצה. For the service of the heart, one's love and fear of God is according to the da'at, according to one's degree of knowledge and understanding of God's greatness. As it is written, know the God of your father and serve him with all your heart and with a longing soul. This is the mission, this is the philosophy, right?
What do you mean?
Moach sholet ba, or
Moach sholet balev? I don't know if that specifically comes from here. But da'at et Hashem, to know God, is, it's a mitzvah. Right? It's a mitzvah.
Okay. ולעתיד הוא אומר, ולא ילמדו איש את רעהו לאמור, דעו את השם, כי כולם ידעו אותי וכו'. Only concerning the future, Messianic era, it is written, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know God, for they shall all know me.
Yeah, funny enough, this is Jeremiah 31, is where Christians get this idea of Brit Chadasha, right? New covenant. Except the new covenant is that there should no longer be a necessity for anyone to teach his brother, right? Mm-hmm. Which for the life of me, I can't understand how Christians think that that's something that's happened. But yeah.
אך עיקר הדעת אינה הידיעה לבדה, שידעו גדולת השם מפי סופרים ומפי ספרים. However, the essence of knowledge, which leads one to serve God with his whole soul and heart, is not mere knowing alone. That people should know the greatness of God from authors and books. אלא העיקר הוא להעמיק דעתו בגדולת השם ולתקוע מחשבתו בהשם בחוזק ואומץ הלב והמוח. But the essential thing is to immerse one's own mind deeply into the greatness of God and fix one's thought on God with strength and vigor of the heart and mind. So this actually kind of reminds me of Vervakian, like the perspectival, the participatory. It's not only necessary to know propositionally, but you really need to.
Yeah, it needs to be a part of your experiential, your part. Yeah. So apparently Elijah is here, and he's correcting me. 4 factorial is not 12. He is in fact correct. 4 factorial is 24, which makes me wonder why the Alter Rebbe said there's 4. Oh, sorry, because since there's only 3 different letters in the Tetragrammaton, it ends up actually there's only 12 different tzirufim.
Right.
Shem Adnut, I don't know why then he said Shem Adnut also has 12. I don't know. Might be interested in the paper Intuitive Knowledge of God in Medieval Jewish Theology by Jose Faurer, and it's related to the question. And yes, I am wearing my winter clothing because it's really cold here. It was down in like the 60s today.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible, says the the guy who lives in California.
Yep. I hear Father Eric talk about it being like negative 10 or something. He lives in North Dakota.
Yeah.
God have mercy on his soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Tough stuff.
Very tough stuff.
I had 10 years in the East Coast. I had a bit of, and not what he's experiencing, but close enough. So, עד שתהא מחשבתו מקושרת בהשם בקשר אמיץ וחזק, כמו שהיא מקושרת בדבר גשמי, שרואה בעיני בשר ומעמיק בו מחשבתו, until his thoughts shall be bound to God with a strong and mighty bond, as it is bound to a material thing which he sees with his physical eyes and upon which he concentrates his thought. He really sounds like Vervaeke here. This reminds me of like Vervaeke has like the idea of a pen, and you're holding a pen. It's part of you. It's not part of you. And also, I just sent this to a friend where you look at a flag, and it makes you more like there's studies where you look at an American flag, and it could cause you to be more patriotic, in whatever way they
priming, yeah.
Priming, yeah. So okay. כנודע שדעת הוא לשון התקשרות, כמו ואדם ידע, וכולי. For it is known that da'at connotes union, as in the verse, and Adam yada literally knew Eve. וכוח זה ומידה זו לקשר דעתו בהשם, יש בכל נפש מבית ישראל, בניקתה מנשמת משה רבנו עליו השלום. This capacity and this quality of attaching one's da'at to God is present in every soul of the house of Israel by virtue of its nurture. By virtue of its nurture from the soul of our teacher Moses, peace unto him. רק מאחר שנתלבשה הנפש בגוף, צריך ליגיעה רבה ועצומה כפולה ומכופלת. Only since the soul has clothed itself in the body, it needs a great and mighty exertion doubled and redoubled in order to feel and be attached to God. I'm reading Derech Hashem, by the way. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
But he was just talking about that.
Yeah.
האחת היא יגיעת בשר, לבטש את הגוף ולהכניעו, שלא יחשיך על אור הנפש. First is the exertion of the flesh, to throw off the bodily shackles, to pound the body, to weaken its corporeality and gain its submission so that it shall not obscure the light of the soul, thus making it possible for one to understand and feel godliness. This is what we talked about before, what he says about the ox and putting the yoke on it.
Yes.
כמו שנתבהר לעיל בשם הזוהר, דגופה דלה סליק בנאורה דנשמתה מבטשין ל.
Very good.
והיינו על ידי הרורי תשובה מעומק הלב כמו שנתבהר שם. Okay. As has been mentioned above, in the name of the Zohar, that a body into which the light of the soul does not penetrate. Okay, stalka, sleek. Okay, I get.
Salik means to go up, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nahora, the nishmata, right, the fire of the soul. Mevatshinle, you pound it.
A body in which the light of the soul does not penetrate should be crushed. This being accomplished by means of penitential reflections from the depths of the heart, as is explained there. Vashanit. After the exertion of the body, היא יגיעת הנפש, שלא תכבד עליה העבודה להגיע מחשבתה, להעמיק ולהתבונן בגדולת השם שעה גדולה רצופה. And the second is the exertion of the soul, that the service of exerting one's thought not be burdensome to it, to delve into and reflect upon the greatness of God for a long and uninterrupted period.
Yeah. Tichbad, as in kaved, it shouldn't be too heavy.
What shouldn't be too, like, on who?
This yegiah shouldn't be the second is the exertion of the soul, that the service of exerting one's thoughts not be burdensome to it, to delve. So it I'm not sure what you're asking.
My question is that, well, what came to mind is like, why would it be burdensome to the soul to delve into God? Isn't that its essence? Or is there something about the nefesh? Or
I think it's talking about the burden to bring that the soul shouldn't, that the what you call it, nefesh habahamit shouldn't be too kaved, right? So it in a sense beat the nefesh habahamit so that it should not be too burdensome on the nefesh elokit. It shouldn't be too difficult for it to conquer.
Oh.
Right. So the example that's sometimes given is when you're trying to light a fire, right? Mm-hmm. And the logs are too too thick to catch light. You break them, right? Mm-hmm. And the splinters, they can catch fire more easily.
Right. So you're exerting.
So thinking of teshuvah and right, that crushes the body, right, and makes it easier for the light of the soul to catch fire in you.
Okay.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay.
כי שיעור שעה זו אינו שווה בכל נפש. For this measure of time necessary to immerse oneself in a godly concept in order to arouse love or fear of God is not the same for every soul. Some require more time, some less.
Yeah.
יש נפש זכה בטבעה, שמיד שמתבוננת בגדולת השם, יגיע אליה היראה ופחד השם. There is the naturally refined soul which immediately upon considering the greatness of God attains a fear and dread of him. כמו שכתוב בשולחן ערוך, אורך חיים, סימן א', כשיתבונן האדם שהמלך הגדול, מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, אשר מלא כל הארץ כבודו, עומד עליו ורואה במעשיו, מיד יגיע אליו היראה וכו'. As is written in Shulchan Aruch, or Chaim, section 1, that when a man reflects that the great king, the supreme king of kings, the holy one, blessed be he, with whose glory the whole world is filled, stands over him and sees his action, he will immediately be overcome with fear. ויש נפש שפלה בטבעה ותולדתה, ממקור חוצבה, ממדרגות תחתונות דיוד ספירות דעשייה. Then there is a soul that is of lowly nature and origin, coming from the lower gradations of the 10 ספירות of עשייה. ולא תוכל למצוא במחשבתה אלוהות, כי אם בקושי ובחוזקה. And it is unable to discover godliness by contemplation except with difficulty and forceful insistence. ובפרט, אם הוטמעה בחטאת נעורים, שהעוונות מבדילים וכולי, כמו שכתוב בספר חסידים, סימן ל"ה. Especially if the soul, and not only of the lowly nature, not only if it's of a lonely nature, it had been defiled by the sins of youth. For once the sins interpose between a Jew and a God, as is written in Sefer Hasidim, chapter 35. So yeah, once you transgress, you create further barriers, or it's harder to connect. That's what he's saying. Okay. ומכל מקום, בקושי ובחוזקה, שתתחזק מאוד מחשבתו, באומץ והגיעה רבה ועומק גדול, להעמיק בגדולת השם שעה גדולה. Nevertheless, with difficulty and with forceful effort, when his thought greatly exerts itself with vigor and great toil and intense concentration, immersing itself in contemplation of the greatness of God for a long time, בוודאי תגיע אליו על כל פנים היראה תתאה נזכרת לעין. There will certainly come to him at least a lower level of fear referred above. וכמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, יגעתי ומצאתי תאמין. And as the rabbis of blessed memory have said, if a man says, I have labored and I have found, believe him.
Right. It says, if someone says, I have labored and not found, you should not believe it.
Right. ודכתיב אם תבקשנה ככסף וכתמונים תחפשנה, אז תבין יראת השם. And it is also written with regard to the success when he labors to attain the fear of God. If you seek it like money and search for it as hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of God. פירוש, כדרך שמחפש אדם מטמון ואוצר הטמון בתחתיות הארץ, שחופר אחריו ביגיעה עצומה. This means in the manner of a person seeking a hidden treasure buried in the depths of the heart of the earth, for which he digs with tireless toil. כך צריך לחפור ביגיעה עצומה, לגלות עוצר של יראת שמיים הצפון ומוסתר בבינת הלב של כל אדם מישראל. So one must delve with unfledging energy in order to reveal the treasure of the fear of heaven, which lays buried and concealed in the understanding of the heart of every individual. שהיא בחינה ומדרגה שלמעלה מהזמן. This understanding of the heart being of a quality and level transcending the limitation of time. והיא היראה הטבעית המסותרת הנזכרת לעין. And this is the natural hidden fear referred to above. Interesting, yeah. So this kind of reminds me of like the idea of again where איפה שצדיקים עומדים, איפה שבעלי תשובה עומדים צדיקים לא. He doesn't say it here yet, but I'm assuming maybe that could be a point where obviously you're coming from a harder position, but for a lower position where there's more fences or there are more things you need to climb.
Right. Ultimately, God judges based on what your natural, where you were, what capacities you had, and this is part of the explanation. So there's a story in the Talmud, I forget who it was, who dies and comes back, and he says, "Olam hafuch ra'iti." I saw an upside down world, right? Because why? He saw that some people were very low, but they had very little capacity, and they were actually great people. And when Mashiach comes and things are revealed, it will be revealed that, oh, such and such person, despite the fact that he was such a nice person, it was because he naturally did not have all of the same difficulties and challenges. Whereas someone had more great difficulties and more challenges, may have in our eyes seemed like a less holy person, but in fact he had moved the needle, as it were, much more.
Yeah. רק שכדי שתבוא לידי מעשה בבחינת יראת חטא, להיות סור מרע, במעשה דיבור ומחשבה, צריך לגלותה ממצפוני בינת הלב שלמעלה מהזמן, להביאה לבחינת מחשבה ממש שבמוח. However, in order that it should be translated into action in the sense of fear of sin, so that one will turn away from evil in deed, word, and thought, one needs to bring it to light from the hidden depths of the understanding of the heart, where it transcends time, and to place it within the realm of actual thought that is in the brain. להעמיק במחשבתו משך זמן מה ממש, עד שתצא פעולתה מהכוח אל הפועל ממש. This means immersing his thought in it for a lengthy period of time until its effect will emerge from the potential into the actual, so that it affects the soul and body of man. So it's like emotion to thought to intellect to action.
Thoughts
says live
the other way around. The thoughts to emotion to action.
Why? Because emotion makes you act?
Because you awaken the emotions, right? Because ultimately, right, it's Chabad is not broken, right? The Shvirat HaKelim was not by Chabad, it's by the Midot. So you can think about the greatness of God, which will awaken a love and fear of God, which will bring you to actually act in fear and love of God.
Yeah. דיינו, להיות סור מרע ועשה טוב במחשבה, דיבור ומעשה, מפני השם הצופה ומביט ומאזין ומקשיב ומבין על כל מעשה ובוחן כליותיו וליבו. So that he will turn away from evil and do good in thought, speech, and action. Because of God, who looks and sees, hears and listens, perceives all his deeds, and searches his kidneys and heart. וכמאמר, רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, הסתכל בשלושה דברים, וכולי, עין רואה ואוזן שומעת וכולי. As the rabbis of blessed memory said, reflect upon three things, and you will not come to sin. Know what is above you, an eye that sees and an ear that hears. וגם כן אין לו דמות הגוף. And although he has no bodily likeness,
so he doesn't actually have an eye or an ear, right?
הרי אדרבה, הכל גלוי וידוע לפניו ביתר שאת, לאין קץ מראיית העין ושמיעת האוזן על דרך משל. On the contrary, everything is revealed and known to him infinitely more than, for example, through the physical medium of sight and hearing. רק הוא על דרך משל, כמו אדם היודע ומרגיש בעצמו כל מה שנעשה ונפעל באחד מכל רמ"ח איבריו, כמו קור או חום. By way of illustration, this is like a man who knows and feels within himself all that is happening to and being experienced by each of his 248 organs, such as cold and heat. ואפילו חום שבציפורני רגליו על דרך משל, אם נכווה באור, וכן מהותם ועצמותם, feeling even the heat in his toenails, for example, as when he is scorched by fire, so also their essence and substance. וכל מה שמתפעל בהם יודע ומרגיש במוחו. And all that is affected in or by them is known to the person and sensed in his brain. So just a note here, one need not use his eyes or ears to see or hear what has happened to a limb of his body, such as the pain of a burned hand or foot, for he knows and senses this in his mind. וכעין ידיעה זו הדרך משל, יודע הקדוש ברוך הוא על כל הנפעל וכל הנבראים, עליונים ותחתונים, להיות כולם מושפעים ממנו יתברך. כמו שכתוב, כי ממך הכל. In a similar manner of knowledge by way of analogy, God knows all that befalls all created beings of both higher and lower worlds, because they all receive their flow of life from him, as it is written, from you come all things. וזהו שאומרים, וגם כל היצור לא נכחד ממך. Do you want to take it away?
Sure. And this is the meaning of what we say, and no creature is hidden from you. כמו שכתב הרמב"ם, so Maimonides says, והסכימו לזה חכמי הקבלה, כמו שכתב הרמ"ק בפרדס, and the Kabbalists also agree with what Maimonides said, שבידיעת עצמו כביכול, יודע כל הנבראים הנמצאים מאמיתת הימצאו, right? In simply knowing himself, God knows everything that he has brought forth into creation. רק שמשל זה אינו אלא לשכך את האוזן, אבל באמת אין המשל דומה לנמשל כלל. Right? So when we talk about God's body and soul or ears and eyes and all of this stuff is so that we can understand a bit by analogy, and truly there's no comparison. כי נפש האדם אפילו השכלית והאלוקית היא מתפעלת ממאורי הגוף וצערו, מחמת התלבשותה ממש בנפש החיונית המלובשת בגוף ממש. For the human soul, even the rational and divine soul is affected by the events which transpire with the body, and it's pain by reason of its being actually clothed within the vivifying soul, right? Which in turn is clothed in the body itself. So unlike God, who's completely muvdal from all of this and not actually affected by anything, right? Because Ani Hashem lo shaniti, right? We still, in some way, can understand this. Right? God is not in any way affected by any of this. Because they cannot affect God in any way. And in order to understand this, the scholars of truth, that is the Kabbalists, have explained at length. כל ישראל מאמינים בני המאמינים בלי שום חקירת שכל אנושי, ואומרים, אתה הוא עד שלא נברא העולם. Right? However, all Jews are believers, descendants of believers, without any speculation of mortal intellect whatsoever. And they say, you were as you are before the world was created. Kanizkar la'al perek chaf, as explained in chapter 20. V'hinei kol adam me'Yisrael, yihyeh mi sheyihyeh, whoever he may be. K'sheyitbonen bazeh, sha'a gedola b'chol yom. When he thinks for a while every day, איך שהקדוש ברוך הוא מלא ממש את העליונים ואת התחתונים ואת השמיים ואת הארץ ממש ולא כל הארץ כבודו ממש, right? He thinks about the greatness of God and the fact that God is everywhere at all times. וצופה ומביט ובוחן כליותיו וליבו וכל מעשיו ודיבוריו וכל צעדיו יספור. Right? God counts each of his steps. God knows everything. אזי תקבעה בליבו היראה לכל היום כולו, כשיחזור ויתבונן בזה אפילו בהתבוננות קלה. Then fear will be implanted in his heart throughout the day when he will again meditate on this even with a superficial reflection. So that he should constantly be fleeing from evil and doing good. Through thought, speech and action. חס ושלום עיני כבודו אשר מלא כל הארץ, that he should not rebel, God forbid, in the sight of his glory, whereof the whole world is filled. כמאמר רבן יוחנן בן זכאי לתלמידיו כנזכר לעיל, וזהו שאמר הכתוב, כי אם ליראה את השם אלוקיך ללכת בכל דרכיו, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to his students, and like it says in the verse Micah, I believe, no, Deuteronomy, that to walk in God's ways. Shehi yir'ah ha'mevi'ah l'kiyum mitzvotav yitbarach b'sur merav v'aseh tov v'hi yir'ah tata'ak hanizkeret la'ayel. Right? That he should have a fear of God, which brings him to keep the mitzvot, which is lower level fear, as we discussed above. ולגבי משה, דהיינו לגבי בחינת הדעת שבכל נפש בישראל האלוקית, מילתא זוטרתי היא, כנזכר לעיל. And therefore, it's a small thing when it comes to talking about that level of Moses, which is da'at, actual knowledge of God. Hada'at hu hamekasher matzpunei binat halev et bechinat gilui b'machshava mamash kayadua leyodei chen. Like those who know, which is not me, right? That da'at is that which connects Binat Halev, the understanding of the heart, with actual thought. Ve'od zot yizkor, ki kamo shem b'melech basar v'dam. Ikar hayir'ah hi miuto v'chayuto v'lo megufo. Shahare k'sheyashen ein shum yir'ah mimenu. Right? So, as in the case of a mortal king, the fear relates mainly to his inner essence and vitality, not to the body itself. So, you're asleep, there's no fear. Vehine pinimiyuto v'chayuto ein nir'a le'enei basar rak be'enei hasechel. Right? And this cannot be perceived physically, but only through the mind's eye. Al yedei re'iyat einei basar begufo levushav sheyodea shechayuto melubash betocham, through the physical eyes beholding his body and garments and knowing that his vitality is enclosed in them. Ve'im ken, therefore, kacha mamash yesh lo lir'a et Hashem. Similarly, he has to have a fear of God. Al yedei re'iyat einei basar b'shamayim u'ba'aretz v'chotz va'am. Right? His eyes can see that there is a heaven and the earth and everything that is in it. Asher or ein sof baruch hu melubash bahem la'achayotam. Right? He can perceive that there must be a godliness that animates them. וגם נראה בראיית העין שהם בטלים לאורו יתברך בהשתחוותם כלפי מערב בשקיעתם, כמאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה על פסוק צבא השמיים לך משתחווים שהשכינה במערב. Right? And I mean, this is an analogy, but it is also seen with the physical eye that they are nullified to God by the fact that they prostrate themselves every day towards the west at the time of their setting, as the rabbis of blessed memory commented on the verse, and the hosts of the heavens bow before you, that the Shekhinah abides in the west. V'nimtza הילוכם כל היום כלפי מערב הוא דרך השתחווה וביטול, right? So that the sun moving towards the west, right, is in a manner of prostration towards God. והנה גם מי שלא ראה את המלך מעולם, and even somebody who never saw the king of a country, ואינו מכירו כלל, and wouldn't know that this was the king if he saw him. אף על פי כן, כשנכנס לחצר המלך, when he goes into the king's court, ורואה שרים רבים ונכבדים משתחווים לאיש אחד, sees that everyone is prostrating themselves before this one man, תיפול עליו אימה ופחד, right? He understands this is the king. ואף שהוא על ידי התלבשות בלבושים רבים, even if this is through many garments and investitures.
So,
yeah,
many garments and investitures, like meaning,
meaning that ultimately we can't really see God in any way, right? It's something that has to come as an extension of an extension of an extension, right? Right. So he's giving a mashal, right? You walk into a kingly castle, and you see that everyone is bowing or towards a particular man. You understand, that's the man, right? That's
you know that. Right, the bowing and the signet ring, the crown are all proxies or signals, a way for us to communicate to each other,
right?
Of an essence that we cannot capture other than
that is way beyond, right? Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, we can't in any way actually perceive God.
Right.
We can only perceive God as he reveals himself through many garments and libushim, right? Harei ein hevdel lehefresh klal beyirat melech basar v'dam bein shehu arum ubein shehu levush echad ubein shehu levush b'levushim rabim, right? So when you're talking about the fear of an actual king, right? He might be bathing. He's still the king, right? And he may be wearing many, like, I don't know if you watched the coronation of Charles. They kept on putting more and more clothes on him, right? Ela העיקר הוא להרגיל דעתו ומחשבתו תמיד, להיות קבוע בליבו ומוחו תמיד, right? The essential thing is to train yourself. אשר כל מה שרואה בעיניו השמיים והארץ ומלואה, הכל הם לבושים החיצוניים של המלך הקדוש ברוך הוא. You should realize that all of the things we view in the world, they are outer garments, they are indications of God himself. ועל ידי זה יזכור תמיד על פנימיותם וחיותם. He will remember the actuality of the situation. וזה נכלל גם כן בלבוש אמונה שהוא לשון רגילות, שמרגיל האדם את עצמו, כמו אומן המאמין מאמן ידיו. This is also implicit in the word emunah, faith, right? I was going to mention, right? So the Jewish concept of faith is the extension of that which you rationally know beyond that which you actually know, right? How do you know the sun didn't explode 5 minutes ago? There's no way. The sun is 8 light minutes away, meaning it is impossible for you to know if the sun exploded 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know rationally from everything you've seen that probably that didn't happen, right? So you're extending that which you actually know beyond, right? And you have faith. That's what faith is. But he's saying this word faith also, we talk about an uman, right? We talk about a craftsman, right? Same root, right? Amen yadav, right? A craftsman trains his hands so that he should be habituated to his craft, right? וגם להיות זיכרון תמיד, לשון חכמנו זיכרונם לברכה. He should always remember what the sages said, קבלת עול מלכות שמיים, שהוא כעניין סום תשים עליך מלך. Should always accept the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, because it goes with the mitzvah to appoint a king, that is God. כמו שנתבאר במקום אחר וכולו, as explained elsewhere, כי הקדוש ברוך הוא מניח את העליונים והתחתונים ומאחד מלכותו עלינו כולו, ואנחנו מקבלים כולו, right? God, as it were, forgoes all the other things because, right? And uniquely bestows his kingdom upon us. וזהו עניין ההשתחוות שבתפילת שמונה עשרה, right? So we have 4 bowings that we do at the beginning of the first blessing and at the beginning and end of the second to the last blessing. קבלת עול מלכות שמיים בדיבור וקריאת שמע. לחזור לקבל בפועל ממש במעשה וכולו, כמו שנתברר במקום אחר. Like we explained above. Yeah. Got it?
Got it.
Perfectly. Now you're ready to teach Tanya?
To teach the words of Tanya, the essence. We'll see about that.
When you become one of the great rabbis of the world, I'll be able to say, I knew Rabbeinu Somech Shlita.
Abdallah Somech. I always find him in whenever I search my name.
Who's Abdallah Somech?
Some great rabbi in Iraq, or he was the great rabbi in Iraq, and I think he's also associated. He might be related to Ben Ishchai.
Could believe it. Okay, Ben. If you got it, please recite the last 2 chapters from memory. Checkmate, Jews. Okay. We've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm gonna end this stream.
I think you cured my stomach.
I'm glad to hear it. If not, there's always ginger.
True.
Ginger is good.